to Fan Expo. And of course, Fan Expo isn't all about Star Wars, is it? There's other things like other stuff. Well, like Star Trek, any Trekkies here? Get out! I've told you before, I will not have you Trekkies coming in disguise as real people. You come with horrible coloured clothing and that silly logo. What is it stand for, please? What is it? Persephone. What? Persephone. Now there's a beautiful name, Persephone, an ancient Greek name, is that correct? Yeah. So how does a gorgeous girl like you, a beautiful name, like Star Trek?
First, I like Star Wars, so there's that. But
yeah, that's enough. Okay, so anybody else like Persephone? Willing to start? Just saying. I know we have a Hans little wind cam going up here. I know we have a major star from Star Trek here, but let's not talk about Star Trek anymore. Anybody here? No, Star Wars is the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody here? Have you talked to my agent about taking pictures of me? You know, yeah. See me afterwards. Anybody here not seen a Star Wars film? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Over there. Right. Somebody who hasn't seen a Star Wars film, this is incredible. Okay. Where are we? Just stand up. Just stand up. I know it's difficult. Here we come. Right. Why haven't you seen a Star Wars film? Just... You haven't seen one?
in completion.
You haven't seen them in completion. Well, you've seen them in bits. That's my role. 3PO in bits. He's constantly being persecuted and talked about. Just smile at the camera. Yes. Okay, that's... What is your name?
Francine.
Francine. It's almost as good as Persephone, but not quite. Okay. Francine, have you really never seen the whole Star Wars film? You have, I'm not talking to you, miss. Even though you are dressed as Princess Leia, favorite character, you did better with the second generation. Okay. Because there are now 3 generations and a bit who have seen Star Wars and whatever. But Francine has never seen the whole thing. That's really sad. But on the other hand, she clearly has a life. Whereas the rest of you, okay, let's do a simple thing here. A little count. Favorite film. Favorite film. And remember, there is somebody in this room, this hall, who's been in all 9 films. Just saying. Let's do a little vote here. Favorite film, episode 1. Hands up. Okay. Cut. Do it again. If you're ready. 4. And I think we better stop there. So, Francine, wasn't it? Francine, who can encapsulate in one word into what would you tell Francine Star Wars is about? You so stand up, please. Yeah, just stand up. Yeah, it means getting a butt off the hip. Okay, just turn this way. What would you tell Francine Star Wars is about? For a big man, you became more than afraid. Have I intimidated you? Yeah, what's Star Wars about? Justice. Justice? Yes. Thank you very much. That's amazing. Yes, what do you think it's about?
4 through 6 are random, 1, 2, 3, but it's Romeo.
I think this was a Star Wars thing. Okay, it's about Hamlet and Romeo. Did I hear you right? Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet? Yeah, okay, I get the idea. Shakespeare. Good. Just as Shakespeare could you? Yes.
Rebellion.
Rebellion. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Fighting oppression. Fighting oppression.
Fighting oppression, good. Family.
A hero's journey.
Hero's journey, these are all wonderful things. All wonderful things that are all wrong. Francine, Star Wars is the story of a golden robot using the ability of all 9 films, and I was that droid. Just saying. So in our little time together, I would love it. Were you clear on that? Presume where are you? Yeah. You're good now? Cool. Promise me that you're going to go home and watch all the films from beginning number 1 to number 9 at the end. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe. So if you've got any questions, please make this moment work for us, or something you would want to ask the only person in all night. Did I already say that? Yes. In all 9 films. If you've got questions about what was it like, which is what people always say, but do ask me what you want. On the other hand, if you were very clever, you would know that I wrote a book. And that book has so many stories in it that probably will answer any question you have. And this is where it gets really important. Okay, this is the sales pitch. Here we go. You see what I mean? This building. Available, actually we run out, sadly. Can you get it on the internet? You know? But it's full of interesting stories. I know because I wrote them, and they're true, and you will like it. It is also available on CD with myself reading my words, and J.J. Abrams, who wrote the preface, also recording his words. So there we are, that's the end of the sandwich, okay? Who's got a question that would like to ask? The only person who's been more than 9 movies. Yes, sir, will you stand up? Yeah, I'm gonna lead.
So, what's with the red arm?
Oh, what's with the red arm? Well, of course it's in the book. I said I wrote the book, right? In the story of the red arm in episode 7. So delightful J.J. Abrams, absolute joy. In the meeting, he said, oh yeah, C-3PO's got a red arm. Why? Well, red skull. Yeah, but why? Well, it shows he's been damaged, he's had a history, you know. It's like the silver leg in episode 4, he said exactly. And I said, nobody ever really noticed the silver leg. And he said, exactly, red. So I was horrified, 3PO was horrified too. So in Photoshop, I did a Band-Aid thing, rivets, you know, he'd been damaged, he had a little thing here, a patch with rivets, so I think it's really cute and quite good with Photoshop. And it was perfect. I showed it to JJ, he said, no, red. So red arm it was. And every day on the set, I would say to him, no forgiveness. However, it did lead to one of the most wonderful lines in episode 8, was it? Who remembers this? You probably don't recognize me because of my red arm. So that was the entire point. And that was a kind of huge. The red arm, in fact I had badges made, no forgiveness, which I gave to JJ forever. But they're always fiddling with 3PO's costume, you know, and you can do that with a droid, but you can't do it with humans. Who's got another question over here? Yes, I'm going to come here. Would you stand up, sir? And just
So what was your favorite movie, 1 through 9?
Well, my favorite movie costume for 6 months at the studio, and it still wasn't ready by the time we flew out 2 years ago. And so on day one in the desert, there I was, wearing little underclothes things, and then a whole team of people, 6 people. The costume was laid out on trestles over here, and it was like 17 pieces, I think. And gradually I stood there, and we started with the little corset thing here with the wires on, which is actually just a corset thing with a so now I'm standing there feeling very self-conscious. I remember this suit had been made to the mold of my body, right? So it was meant to fit. So we start with that. And then the next thing, of course, is this area. So kind of pulling on. Oops. There we are. And now the leg. And the foot. And the... So now I'm good from here down. And now they come with the front and the back. So now I'm sort of locked in with my arm sticking out, so and a hand. And now I'm out. And then they come at me with a neck. So that fitted in there. And then came, now this had taken about an hour and a half. And then they came with the head. In 2 halves. Think of an Easter egg. This was made of fiberglass. The front's coming here, the back's coming towards me, and suddenly my world changed. I'm now in darkness and seeing through the little peepholes that are C-3PO's eyes. But then they had to take these big screws that went through the front portion of the head into the back portion, and then into the neck. And as they pushed all that through, they pushed the neck away, so the bayonet clipping couldn't do. Same this side. And all the time they're saying, oh, bend a bit this way, bend a bit that way. It was torture. At one point, some people put their hand, come on, breathe. Because that's what 3PO means. Well, obviously 3PO doesn't breathe, he's a robot, we'll deal with it, you know what I mean? And so half an hour later, I am enclosed totally. It's taken 2 hours, and we haven't even started, and I was ready to resign. But this was what I signed up for. But you know, then we are in the desert. There's no local cab phone that I can bring to get me out of this car. I'm now locked like this. And of course, the good moment was when finally they opened the tent flaps, and 3PO stepped out into the desert sun for the very first time. And people were in awe. I could see through my little people eyes, I could speak the crew like that, and they were aghast. Nobody had seen 3PO before. And then, so for the American crew was like all over and said, wow, look at that, it's incredible, what, can we believe it, they kicked me that. The British crew going, it's rather good, isn't it? And then of course the Tunisian help were like, oh, I think that's where George looked like you, they thought I was wonderful. And then of course we get to the set, and you know, the whole thing with our problem, and I realized I didn't actually know who I was. And I got the continuity lady to take a Polaroid picture. And she held it up, and I said, and she sort of held it up so I could see. And I looked at 3PO's face. And at that moment, I became 3PO. It's kind of weird. A space magic happened with the costume, the location, the terror of the whole thing. And I'd been working on the script for 6 months on it, kind of had it inside my head, but never turned to me until that moment. The inspiration of being in the desert in the heat and being locked away was utterly magical. And when I saw the finished film, I thought it was magical too. But it's not me, it's 3PO. And all that story is in a book that I wrote. And there's a copy here, the one remaining copy, I think, in this place. Who's got a question? Yes. I'm sorry, I may not be now. Are you okay, sir? You can come earlier next time. Get a seat, you know. Yes. Just stand up this way.
First off, thank you for all the memories. Second, not only were you in all 9 movies, but you were one of 2 actors to be in the NPR recording of it, C-3PO. What was that experience like, recording those pieces not in costume and trying to put the character without being in costume?
As you will know, some of you, when the finished film, well, we finished filming, and they all went back to America. I went back to my home in London, and sort of forgot about the whole experience because it was kind of a bit weird. And then I got a call to go to Hollywood to put my voice on the film. All the way through, I'd been very bad quality, so you needed to redo the voice, to dub the voice. And when I got there, it's made the story. I got to the studio, and the engineer said, "Hi there, Anthony." He mispronounced my name, obviously. It's Anthony, but I didn't say anything. "Hi there, Anthony. It's great to meet you, but it's kind of incredible you got here because, George has spent like a couple of months trying to find a voice for the character because he really hates your performance." And at that moment, George came in. I didn't even say hello. I said, "You hated my performance?" Never really thought of 3PO as being a British butler. Well, I never thought of anything else, And he could have said, "Can you do another kind of performance?" But anyway, so I spent 3 days redoing all my lines because I had a microphone here, one I go all the way down to the back. The sound wasn't good enough. And of course the transmitter was plugged into the one space, which was my butt. So all the way through that movie, I'm talking to you out of my... There we are. So I nearly wasn't the voice of 3PO, and there's no way I would have done a second film if I just done the book. And then, of course, because I was the voice, I've been able to do so many things. And as our guest here says, NPR, National Public Radio, then created the most wonderful scripts, much longer than the movies. Brian Davey wrote superb dialogue. And I love doing it. I love doing the Lego cartoons on the animation because I don't have to wear the costume. Another question? Yes.
What do you think of the various parodies, like the original one, like 80 and Simon Pegg's parody?
The thing about parodies is you can only really nicely make fun of things you love. If you love something so much, you can say take and make it whatever, and it's done with affection. And it shows a warmth because Star Wars has kind of created this family, and we have in-jokes, and you all know far more about these movies than I do because you watch them far more than me. I'm in them, so I don't necessarily want to take my homework with me. But the parodies, the cartoons, particularly again, I come back to Lego, we have sometimes we're in tears making those things because they're funny. There's not much in Star Wars that's actually funny, well, apart from 3PO, honestly, because 3PO has no sense of humour, have you noticed? And people who don't have a sense of humour really are quite ridiculous and funny and 3PO is. So, yeah, the parodies are good. And of course, it gives you another dimension, of enjoyment and characterization and so on. Now the rest of it. Yes.
I was wondering, as someone who's known for playing a robot, what do you think about the rise of AI?
AI is very difficult. It's going to happen. It is happening. It has happened. How it has occurred, I don't know. 3PO was, of course, the first iteration, really, of major AI. And in fact, the studio really pretended that I didn't exist. when the film came out, I didn't get any credit because they wanted people to think that they had created this amazing thing. And it was quite hurtful because it wasn't an easy shoot, and I would have liked to get more credit than they gave me, but that's history now, I guess. Finally, they put my name on a poster in episode 5. It was a kind of a little late, but there we are. Another question over here, because some outrageous costumes, I love it, but particularly. And who's over here? Right. Yes, Supergirl, are you? Or something. Find out. I'm going to start coming through. Start coming through. Hollywood legend arriving.
I was wondering, who's your favorite actor or actress that you worked with throughout all the films?
Who's a favourite? That's difficult because everybody I don't mention heroes, right? I do have, is this my close up? Of course, right from the beginning, there was one person who really amused me because he was already astoundingly famous, and that of course was Sir Alec Guinness. And really the reason I got the job was he and I were the same agency at the time, and so the script was there, and somebody who was small and got admired and cheap, and that was me rather than Sir Alec. But when we arrived in Tunisia, I met him for the first time on the plane, and we chatted, and he was very, very nice. And when we got there, I headed to the bus, because there was a bus and a limo, and I knew the limo wasn't for me. But as I kind of wandered off, he got out of the limo and he said, have they given you your per diem yet? I had no idea what it meant. I'd never been in a film, I didn't know what a per diem was. He said, your pocket money, because they seem to have given me rather a lot, and I think you should have some. Oh, how can you not love a man like that? Absolutely adore him. And of course he went on to be a little unkind about the film. It was an unusual shoot, because George Lucas had a particular way of working, and the British people didn't understand it at all. And so there was a bit of conflict. And Gary Kurtz, the producer, was always interfering in other people's jobs, and they didn't like that. One of the most famous lighting cameraman, Gil Taylor, told him in various ways to go away. That was kind of interesting. So Alec probably, but then we come on later, and of course Mark Hamill, a real pro and full of enthusiasm and bounce and whatever, and of course Carrie. But then we come right through to Oscar Isaac in episode 79, who took on the role of being rude to C-3PO in such a funny way that I just was regularly giggling at his unkindness. It was very subtle, but so much got cut out of that last movie. It's a shame, because there were some nice moments, but then they decided to shovel everything in to impress the fans, and it became a bit of a mismatch. But never mind. Then we have to meet events like this. Of course, John Boyega is here. John Boyega, as you know, is a well-known actor, but you may not know that he became my dresser and assistant. We were on this kind of ship thing, I never quite understood it, in episode 9, I think, flying through the desert. And I was attached for safety reasons with lines attached to the ship itself, so I could only move in that kind of orbit. So it was 60, 50 feet up in the air, and I never all the crews down here. So if anything went wrong, I was up there with John. So really, he wasn't taken to the set, so he would make sure that I had to order the set. And then at one point, I think my arm fell off, so suddenly John Boyega, famous actor, is fiddling with my costume. It was quite wonderful. He probably, if he ever writes a book, like I did, he'll probably famous moment of helping Anthony Daniels stay dressed. I loved it. We had such fun. It was actually a vehicle the ship was on a vehicle, and it zoomed along. It was quite exhilarating. And I holding onto the mast, and really it was rocky and everything. And it was all good until at the end of one shot, the driver suddenly stamped on the brake. And the one place that I didn't have a cord on was here. So I reeled back. It was terrifying, but I survived. Another question. Actors, yeah, every actor brings something different. We know what Harrison Ford brought to the whole thing. And his meanness to 3PO was a great move in episode 4 or 5. So I'm sorry about the detail it wasn't, because I got harm in that relationship. So to suddenly not be brought, I was like, so every actor brings something. Do you have a question? Would you come here over here, please? Okay, here's the thing. Would you just turn this way? Oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. No, you're not. Stormtroopers never take that here. Okay, what's your question? Knives. Do I like okay, good question. Okay, you can take it. Look at that. Wow! A superstar. Look at that. What's your name?
Ian,
What was your question?
did
You see when? I know, there's a scene in episode 6 where the Ewoks beating up the stormtroopers, and they were still here. And they kept falling over in the forest. And I thought, well, these extras, these actors are really not very good at their job because they keep and then I picked up this helmet and I put it on my nose through the lenses. And it was like looking down through a empty bottle of wine, watching thinking this is a thing. And it's why they went into it. And that's why they were actually shot on their glasses. They didn't see. So, what was the question?
Spaceballs and
Oh, didn't I like Spaceballs? Was that my question? I thought I said a statement. People in costume have a real problem making themselves available. It's really difficult for young actors. Of course, they've had the skills and they're machines. But when you're mumbling or whatever, it can come out crazy. Did I like Spaceballs? I loved Spaceballs. Did you like Spaceballs? And here's the thing, it was not the one with Joan Rivers. But here's the thing. Could you hold this for a the interesting about Spaceballs, which I love, absolutely love. Joan Rivers, absolutely adorable, not at all. There's another one. It's your brother. Yeah, okay. I'm not what is it? Never work with anyway. What's your name?
Mark,
Mark. And you are something. You're a rebel. And you're a rebel.
a rebel trooper.
Okay. And you're a baddie. You're a bad guy. Right? The thing about to stay with me, smile at the camera. Wave at your mom there. Just wave at that thing there. The interesting thing for me is that Spaceballs was created by two people, Joan Rivers, who was a wonderful voice, and then you had a very, very clever roller skater, yes, do you remember, in a kind of frog thing. But you watch it again, and there's a kind of mismatch between the physicality of the character and Joan Rivers' personality, character personality. They just don't quite align. And of course, the most important thing to create a character, as I did, in all 9 movies. And some others, because they was like Rogue One, that was good. But the thing about 3PO is one way, and therefore sort of central things, one entity, all different parts but one entity. With Joan Rivers, not so sure. So next time you go and see if it really works. This is your moment of fame. It's now over. Go and sit down. There you go. I'm just going to come into Out of Darkness over here. Yeah, wait a minute. Turn. And somebody over here. Look, I've come all this way. Better be a good question. All right, Princess Leia, come here. Yeah. So, what's your question? Thank you for this homage to Carrie Fisher. What's your question?
Since you've been in all 9 movies, like
Yes, you knew that. How did you know that?
you've mentioned it a few times.
Did I? No, I like that. It's probably. Did you say it right? Yeah, I will. Okay.
You have a lot of funny like one-liners in the movies. What's your favorite one?
One-liners. It's a good question. My favorite line is, "We're doomed." Easy to say. It's not exactly a one-liner, but I refer to Harrison Ford and Han Solo being a bit mean to 3PO, all the way good dramatic thing there with script writing, but very good dynamic challenge. But at one point when the Ewoks, we've already talked about them, no Ewoks here tonight. I trod on one once. There was this, I kept saying, I can't see where I'm going. You have to do what we rehearsed. One time Ewok got it wrong, and there was a kind of, we had some spare ones. There was a moment where we'd just been part of the tribe, and oh, that was later. But there is Harrison Ford, Han Solo, over a fire that the Ewoks are lit, and he's kind of strung up there. And he's been mean to 3PO now for 3 films. And he says in the script, because the Ewoks go, have you ever noticed that 3PO speaks Ewokese? Yeah. And so you've got Ewoks go, and 3PO says, Kuchana. He's like all British people, he speaks several languages, but always with the most appalling British accent. So there is Harrison over the fire, and he's saying, they're all going, and playing the drums. What are they saying, 3PO? And then 3PO looks at him. It appears, Captain Solo, that you are to be the main course at a banquet given in my honor. So that's how I'm going to go. There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
First of all, yes, you delivered some of the most funnest and fun lines, but you delivered one of the most emotional lines. You said you wanted to take one last look at it. Were you not only referring to the cast and crew, but to the rest of us, and will you be back for another?
That is a very good question. Sometimes you are given a line, mostly you're given a line. George hated it when anybody else tried to write it a line. That's why I was saying hokey stuff there. But then you get a line and you look at it and you think, and then you say it on set. And then the director and the editor leave exactly how you said it. Actually, it moves me every time. So, what's he saying? Oscar Isaac says, so what are you doing through here? He's about to have a brain transplant or something. He's about to die, basically. Yes. What are you doing through here? Taking one last look, Sam, at my friends. I love the fact that here's a question of timing. There were so many things in that last film which were stunning in the original script. Things, peril happened, perils happened. What's going to happen now? Oh, but that's already happened. It's disastrous, horrible. That needs to be corrected. It's not being corrected. What's happening? What's happening? We're worried, we're afraid, whatever. Oh, the relief. If you take out that middle section, you are losing so much of the drama, most of the soul of the audience. And in fact, there was much more preamble to 3PO braving it up to say, yes, I will sacrifice myself. And that's a shame. On the other hand, we still have that line. And then, of course, we have him obliquely telling R2-D2 that, what was the nice thing that I must say, R2, you have been a very good friend. My best friend, in fact. It's very British, she didn't want to admit that actually he loves R2. So there's all sorts of things in Star Wars film. And of course, you know that there was only one film at the beginning, yes? Yeah. But it worked really well. And it worked because people came to see it, and they told their friends, and their friends told their friends, etc. And it went viral. So they made episode 5, 6, 7, and of course, 9. Yes, I am very listening to my mind. And that came through the power of the fans, and that's you, isn't it? That's you, each one of you. Some of you were there at the beginning. Anybody see it on the big screen? Yeah, back in the day. Yes. And so you have these memories. And it does come out to be with your friends. And the love, and making parodies, and making costumes and everything. And so, as I stand here, I want to thank all of you for being here today, for being Star Wars fans, for being there something from the beginning. And so at this point, I will say thank you. And now I am taking one last look at my friends.